Wow. Great view from here. You'll have to come over after. I can see the whole town from here. But great audience as well. And we're going to have some time for question and answers at the end of this panel, because I think this sophisticated audience deserves a chance to take a crack at this distinguished panel themselves. But I will get it started. So I cover Latin America for Bloomberg News. I'm based in Mexico City, and I'm responsible for our coverage of the region. It's an exciting place. It's a complicated place. You gave, Elon, a very passionate speech at the beginning of this event. I think you're known for your passion. And we just heard from the eMarketer data from Mateo, right, about kind of the forecast for the region. But I want to get behind that number a little bit, because there's a lot of participants in that growth around the world. And every company has to look at its own individual situation and decide, okay, is Latin America right for me? So as you look at it, and I'd love kind of your perspective, including from the ground, why would a U.S. brand look at this marketplace and say, okay, as opposed to that next opportunity in Middle East and Africa or wherever it is, why should I choose Latin America at this moment? Have I really missed the window?
So thank you for the passion thing. So I believe, and for sure, Karen has more data on the ground, but if you analyze the internet penetration, for example, of Latin America, the level of education, the access of internet, the access for e-commerce as well. So these countries buys a lot, and there is a lot of banking and financial services that are super well advanced, which allows the e-commerce infrastructure to be very ready. So when you think of LATAM, maybe there are many statistics, and I would allow the experts later, but let's say it's 10% of the world, roughly, in terms of revenues. So it's a bunch of people. So we're talking about maybe $100 billion market, maybe 6 markets if you fragment it into them, 500 million consumers. Well, that's fair enough. So if you go to the Middle East, maybe you need to pick the Middle East, then you need to pick Africa to get maybe a broader market. LATAM by its own, even though you know more than me, that's there are many LATAMs, okay? There is Brazil, they speak Portuguese, the culture is different, then it's Argentina, then it's Colombia, Mexico. So actually we are talking about LATAM as a catch-all. It's very, very different, every market. But, well, that's why we exist, all these platforms, to allow you to have only one connection and sell across these places. Our solution exactly is for, solving that fragmentation. And I think LATAM is growing very fast. It's same continent, so it's very nearby. And the access for those SKUs is limited. Because of the complexity for so long, importers are bringing very low amount of SKUs. And there is a very huge opportunity in all the rest that with the technology we have today is very plug and play.
Thank you, Elon. Karen, you have been part of this amazing success story in LATAM with Mercado Libre, and you've seen so much growth already, poured investment into the region. As you're looking at it now, has anything changed about the opportunity in the last couple of years, or do you see something changing on the ground right now?
Well, thank you for the question, and thank you, Elon, and everybody for hosting this amazing event, and for inviting me. I think a lot has changed. The penetration of e-commerce has been growing very, very fast. I think Mateo was mentioning it's the fastest growing region among them all, but we're still very underpenetrated. So I think it's a matter of continuing to give availability, assortment, logistics, and payment solutions to the vast population, the 500, 600 million people in LATAM, for us to be able to grow the amount of purchases we still make, right? On average, Latin Americans are buying 7-8 times a year on digital platforms. That's nothing compared to the 30, 40, 50 purchases that they make here in the U.S. and let alone Asia, where they probably buy 4, 5, 10 times a day, right? If you count food and everything else. So the even though it is complex, and I'm not going to deny that, companies like Knock Knock and us here in Mercado Libre, we're trying to solving all the issues and making it easy and pouring a lot of money and investment into logistics, into technology, AI, fintech, in order to make it easy, not only for local sellers, which have been growing upwards of 40% year over year, but also for international sellers. And in cross-border, we're growing almost 70% year over year. If we look at the US, because it's a smaller portion, it's even more than that. It's triple digits, right? So the infrastructure is there, the technology is there. We just need to continue, kind of sparkling that interest on you guys to come join us and believe in us that we can help you solve all of those complexities, regulations, international customs and logistics. We can solve that. And basically, how many of you live in LATAM? I know a bunch of us. Okay, roughly like a third. How many bags are you bringing home full of Amazon stuff? I know I brought an empty bag just to fill it up with stuff I cannot get in LATAM. So it's a matter of how do we enable that? There's no more borders anymore, right? It's easy. And everyone in LATAM, I think that's one thing that Ilan mentioned in his answer is American brands are very well known in LATAM. And they are aspirational. And we all want to get it. And, those who are lucky to be able to travel or to access those brands is great. But a lot of people don't. So we have to make sure we solve everything so that you can access them down south, basically.
I feel very seen by your description of coming to New York and buying things and bringing them home. I'm definitely doing that as well. See it. Yeah, guilty. Anthony, at Newegg, you were a direct seller. You're also a marketplace. We were talking before this panel, and you're enthusiastic about Latin America. What kind of brought you to that decision point?
First of all, thank you for inviting me, and thank you for having this event, wonderful event. Well, we've been in this space for the technology for quite a while, almost 25 years this year. We see a number of the sellers, resellers buying from us, and we sell that to LATAM. Myself, we're kind of skeptical to go to LATAM. I think we see a lot of opportunity. In the meantime, we also see that we are not local. We do not have any presence in LATAM. But however, we see a lot of customers really into the technology products, especially Karen just mentioned about US brand. From our products perspective, for example, the newest, greatest and latest product that we launched, a lot of traffic coming from LATAM and look at the products. I think they want to buy, but for some reason, the complexity of the export from US, we base in US, from the complexity of the return, pre-sale and post-sales, all kind of issues that we see traffic, but we do not have conversion. And we do also have a number of the resellers that come to us and say, hey, you know what, can you buy from us? And they resell back to LATAM. And there are a lot of system integrators also came to us on that. So that gave us the perception that LATAM is growing big, but in fact it is growing big. And we think that this is something that we can start to explore this opportunity to work together with the LATAM partners.
Yeah. So to refer back to the earlier panel, you followed the data, and the data was telling you something. It says a lot. Let's kind of peel back a little bit and look at the competitive landscape in the marketplace. There's a lot of great companies operating in LATAM doing exactly what some of you are doing. Ilan, maybe we can start with you on this because you see across all these marketplaces. What can you kind of describe how things look right now?
So first of all, let's go firstly for the market. So you've got Brazil and you've got Mexico. Maybe I'm going roughly numbers. That's 60%, 70% of the share. Then you've got Argentina, Colombia, and Chile as the ones that maybe completes 95%, and then you've got the rest. Okay, that's quite different from the cross-border. It's not exactly linear because of what John was mentioning in the other panel, regulatory issues. So usually tax and de minimis are changing a little bit the way that cross-border behaves. So Mexico is larger, usually a lot larger than Brazil, and that's at least what we are seeing. We can hear Karen later, and of course Anthony. But so that's from the fragmentation point of view of the markets. Then of course Meli is the winner, and Meli have the very advantage there. Then you've got the Chinese. I think the Chinese have been revolving a lot of local markets. Usually, if you see it from I don't know, if you think you're in the trying to see the picture from the structure and not like the components, you will always see Chinese that are changing their names. So 10 years ago, there was Deal Extreme and Lights in the Box when we started the company. Then AliExpress was super large, and well, now you've got the Shopee. That's of course a crazy story there. You've got the Temu, the Shein, and all these marketplaces that are gaining market share rapidly. You've got Amazon that's there, and Amazon you never can think of Amazon as a sleepy partner. Like they are Amazon, they are investing heavily. And then you've got the locals. So that's the way we divide it, at least. The locals are the Magazine Luiza in Brazil, the Carrefour, the Americanas. You've got Falabella in Chile, Cencosud, which is Paris. You've got in Mexico, Coppel, Walmart. Walmart is international, sorry. It's very local though, so maybe that was the reasoning. Walmart is very large in Mexico. Then you've got Liverpool. So all these marketplaces are relevant in Latin America, not to mention the quick commerce ones that I think someone mentioned, Rappi and Delivery Hero and all these places, Glovo, Uber Eats, Didi now. So there are many players, and the fragmentation exists. So what we see and we think it will continue to exist, even though there is a clear winner currently, that's Meli. And we want to work with the sellers and the merchants, the suppliers of the world, actually to drive that fragmentation, which is complex. Like, customer support in different languages, shipping, customs. Customs are very hard in Latin America, are improving, but they're hard. Of course, payments, how to take the money out is not the same as acquiring. And of course, driving the local marketplace. Like, it's the technology of the, let's say, brick and mortars of the world is nothing to do with Meli. So it's very hard, like, to connect to those catalogs and have the listings there. Not to mention, like, compared to Amazon, like for American sellers, it's very hard to connect to these guys. So we have been working a lot on that.
Here's how complex it is. Just as an example, I ordered something from Amazon in Mexico City last week, and it got delivered by Rappi. So you even get some cross-pollination in some of these markets. It's pretty interesting. Sorry, I ordered from Amazon and not America. I'll do better next time. But let's go to you.
We'll talk about that later.
Yeah, exactly. We'll follow up.
He has a promotion code now.
Okay, all right. We'll get things settled. But no, let's talk about this. I mean, you yes, as Ilan said, you're king of the hill, queen of the hill in this marketplace right now. But the competitors keep coming. Did he describe the landscape in the way you would see it? What would you add to that?
I think he knows his business very well. I think that's pretty much it. I mean, one thing I can tell you, coming back from China, I arrived 2 weeks ago, is that the Chinese are targeting the region.
They mean business.
They mean business. Shopee in Brazil is now the number 2 player almost double what Amazon is doing in Brazil with all the investment that they are pouring into Brazil. Brazil is hard, but the Chinese were very smart. They came with the very low end, low of the pyramid, unbranded, low ASP products. Probably people that were not even buying online yet. So they got people through social media, through gamification. They got that base of the pyramid. And they were able to grow fast. Of course, we are fighting back and we are growing, the fastest in 4 years because we are pouring a lot of money and investing in the long term, in logistics, in being able to reach, that base as well. But where I'm going is Chinese people don't care about the complexity. They don't care about the investment. They will go and target our region. And I think that's a wake-up call for American sellers because, of course, they are already half of the business here with Amazon. And I believe, my humble opinion is, you need to diversify out of that, right? And this is a region that even though we are targeted by the Chinese and we do have a very solid Amazon business down there, I think it's very complementary to what we at Mercado Libre are doing, right? We are almost 95% marketplace. Our cross-border business is still very small compared to our fair share in each one of our markets. That's probably because I don't do such a great job. So I'll continue to improve and hire great teams to help me. But we need to continue to grow at 2x, 3x as fast as our local marketplaces to have that fair share and to be able to represent all of these loved brands down in Latin America. So I think it's, I really believe that even though it's complex, even though there are a lot of hurdles, even though probably 70% of your business is within, your local players and Amazon here in the US, if you have patience and try it, it's a match made in heaven, really, right? It's 120. We have 120 unique buyers last year, at 120 million unique buyers, waiting for these brands to come and be, kind of going towards that supply gap that we still have and price gap that we still have. Yeah.
Famous blue ocean, right?
Blue ocean.
Blue ocean. Very beautiful image. And Anthony, you came in and looked at all this and, knew about all these sellers and all these marketplaces you could go through. Were you surprised by the variety and the, sort of complexity of this market? And how did you sort of approach how to handle it?
Well, we've been in US for almost 25 years. South America is always the next target we want to aim for. But unfortunately for this year, we didn't do a good job to explore even more, to find the right partners to work together. From my perspective, I don't think we can do it based on the product category that we have. We are quite vertical. 80% of products still 1P. We buy, we store in the warehouse, and they deliver the product to consumers. And only 20% of our GMV is coming from the marketplace. And for the past 2 years, we are able to get even more product from China and Taiwan and various parts of Asia. I think enter to the LATAM market is the opportunity for us for the next chapter. If we can work together with you, that would be great. We know how to get the product out from China. We still have a tremendous of the employees and staff, engineers in China that we can source the products quite easily, I would say. We have a platform able to get all the product on our space, on our platform. But unfortunately, we do not have a key to unlock the LATAM for the localization in terms of the logistic or import-export or anything to do with the return pre-sales. So I wouldn't surprise marketplace is a huge it's going to be big, but I think there are also opportunity, even though it's very complex.
A nice name drop there with Unlock LATAM. That was nicely done. What has been the number one challenge, Anthony, that you didn't expect as you come into this marketplace? You go, oh, wow, I didn't know I'd have to deal with that.
Well, the challenge for us is, well, if you look at the e-commerce, always the three pillars that will sustain your business: the payment system, logistic, and the marketing information that how you're gonna to target the customers. And those are the challenges that we're facing if we go to localize for the LATAM. However, until I met Ilan, and also lately we also engaged with Bedra, we think there are opportunities. Why? Because our product categorized into three categories. Long tail products that we can utilize the cross-border to target those niche and enthusiasts want those products. And we also have the top selling item. But one very important is our business model stand on many of the brands who are created the product. They always launch our platform as the greatest and latest. If you look at our supply chain from the technology and computers, really there are less than 20 or even 25 of the brand that dominate the whole computer industry. AMD, Intel, Western Digital, Asus, really not that many. And many of them, almost 80% of their products coming from Taiwan. And these products, from the supply chain and vendor relation point of view, I think New York has been done a very good job for the past. So from the end of the supply chain to the platform, that I think we are quite competent. We're able to get a product whatever we want. The only thing is, how are we going to deliver this product to LATAM? The gate to us is still a lot of uncertainties. We do not know how tariffs work. We do not know how the currency fluctuation. We do not know how the customer buying behavior change over time. Very different from country to different countries. So this is something that we see. Yeah.
How do tariffs work? No, but seriously,
you work at Bloomberg, right?
Yeah, I do, and I don't understand it completely. But we all know that additional complexity has been introduced into the mix in the last 18 months or so. Karen, you've been doing this a while. You've been running cross-border for a while. Can you talk about the newest challenges, the latest challenges? It might be tariffs, it might be something else, but what are you dealing with now that you weren't a couple of years ago?
So a lot of different things, and I think John mentioned this in the previous panel. So we have different levels of commitment from cross-border sellers, right? So maybe when you're not so sure how to start, well, we can help you out with a model that is very hands-free. So it's basically, you have your inventory in your warehouses, you'll upload the catalog and you'll print labels and we'll take care of the logistics and the payments and everything. So it's very easy to at least start, test it out, right? And then you can start graduating to other models, such as we have our own warehouse here in Texas. You can ship the merchandise to us. We'll take care of it. We'll ship it to all 5-6 countries in LATAM. And then you can localize, which is what John was mentioning before. And that's probably the most complex kind of, tough to handle from the beginning. Once you start knowing the relations, it's probably easier. But of course, in order to do that, you need a local tax ID in Mexico and in Brazil and in Chile. So, we can help you out. We can introduce you to people. It's actually not rocket science. You can actually do it. But of course, that means a different commitment level. And we're willing to help you, but probably it makes more sense to start somewhere else, right? You were asking about what are those new kind of challenges and headaches. And of course, regulation is one of those, right? Mexico was super open to being easy. You could work locally without even having a local entity there. Right now, it's much more regulated and robust in that sense, similar to what's going on in Brazil. On the flip side, Argentina has opened up. So basically, you can ship cell phones from anywhere in the world without paying taxes, and anything below $400 only pays VAT. So it's very convenient to ship from here. Opened up a whole new country where, by the way, we are 65% of the market share there. So, we've been in business for almost the same time as you guys, 26 years. And we've been through a lot of different political situations, regulations, taxes changes. And basically, we try to adapt and we try to hedge also, because you have Brazil, you have Argentina, you have Mexico, and there's businesses going on up and down in each one of them. And we'll, seize every opportunity so we can optimize sales.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Ilan, you have obviously people coming into this market for the first time that you're working with, and we heard Anthony's experience as somebody coming into the market. Can you give us a sense of what the biggest surprise is for your clients coming into the market, the thing that they expected versus what the reality that sets in when they get in?
Yeah. So let me just go back one step for what Karen and Anthony were mentioning, just for you to have an idea of the complexity and back and forth of Latin America regulatory landscape. As we speak, the Prime Minister of Brazil tweeted that they are taking out the taxa de Brusinhas. And Karen and Anthony maybe didn't know. So I was just aware. And this is the minimis tax, and I don't have the details on whatever, but I received a WhatsApp, and this is the level of uncertainty we live in LATAM. So I think it was 3 years ago. I remember arriving to the US, and I received a message that whole bulk of products of our were like stuck at customs. It was like my stomach was there, and then I kept walking without it. Because the company was young, and and I think we have thrived on the chaos, and Mercado Libre, Newegg has done it as well, and we're so used to it. But for you guys, just for you to have an idea, that's not something you are used to. So when I received that message, I'm thinking, well, what's going to happen? Like, because I read that message, it's not that I'm sure that's going to happen. Because Brazil is like this. And you have here the BOF analysts that are reviewing all this all the time. And Brazil is like this. Mexico has a lot of lobby. Well, Argentina. Now you have this government that is bullish for commerce and liberalism and whatever. And 2 years ago, you had a very, very, very closed government. What Karen said, the hedge issue and the diversification issue is what matters most. But for you guys to go for each of those markets and choose one of local entities, imagine you are doing that in Argentina today. It makes a lot of sense to open a fulfillment center today in Argentina, send some stock, stop. And you don't know if Milei's next year in Argentina or Kirchner's comes back. And you never know about the inventory risk that means. I'm not saying not to taking risks in LATAM. I'm an entrepreneur and a builder of LATAM, and I think you should take risks. As Karen was saying, there are level of commitments. We can help on that. What I mean is this is truly hard and truly uncertain, and you need to be as prudent and informed as the level of partners you want to have in those places. So connecting to your question, I think the surprise is usually how hard is LATAM? So some sellers are asking, hey, why I don't have publishing my products in Coppel, Mexico? And that happens with all the other partners, same for the ads program. So I want to spend money, and many sellers say, hey, I want to spend, I don't know, $10,000 in this SKU. Okay, it's not a plug and play. And it's different in each market. It's different in each marketplace. Logistics. we have talked a lot with Karen about it. There are sometimes that logistics works very well. Sometimes that logistics works not that well. And it's because there are many, many things to consider. So connecting the dots, it's hard, but it's worth it. And I think you need to have very good partners there if you want to make it. And of course, once you dominate a little bit, you can step forward steps, but just take care of your stomach. That's if you want to do that.
And I think we do have to get to questions from the audience now, but I am a news man at heart, and that if we do have some live breaking news here with this tax situation in Brazil, can we get some quick reaction to it? What is this going to mean for that marketplace?
So this is how it used to work. It used to be very open for especially Chinese sellers to be able to sell into Brazil almost with no tax. And then after that, they've been more protective, especially of the fashion industry in Brazil, which is very large. And they started piling up taxes. And I think right now it's up to 60% import taxes for anything that you're buying under that de minimis rule. Now, this has proven to be very unpopular with Lula, their president. And because elections are closer by, he was proposing to lower the tax. That, of course, is very popular with the population and very unpopular with the factories and producers locally. But if they do that, it's a much open space to be able to ship there with no or a much lower tax. So it's a huge opportunity, I would say.
Thank you for that. I'm sorry.
Just to expand a little bit. So I think we saw this movie already. So 2-3 years ago. That's interesting as well. It's cyclical. So you can have some predictions here, although I don't like predictions. But if you see the world in Brazil 3 years ago, the movie was something like this. So there was an announcement of a change of regulation, so a tax going down. And there was a huge lobby from all the retailers and marketplaces in Brazil and all these businessmen going after the government. And there started the negotiations. So many unions started to work out. So you have the union pro-cross-border and the union anti-cross-border. And it's exactly what I'm saying is what happened. And you start to see how the coalitions works out and how these companies are now that, I don't know, the Amazons of the world starts to negotiate along the Chinese, and now they are friends because they have a common enemy. And that's how it worked. And finally, from that one day to another, they passed this regulation, and we had this Remessa Conforme program that is working well. And I was talking to some guys before today that even though the sales maybe are not like crashing, the operation is for first time in maybe 10 years working well. So there is compliance, we are not having all the time the uncertainty of how much money we will lose maybe, and we need to do an average of our profits. And that's the reason why I am very skeptical on what's going to happen. What I'm certain about is that this is not going to pass like this. Usually Brazil has these tailwinds, and it will be hard negotiations. There are many powerful people in Brazil that are not gonna like it. And once, even if this passes, which I think is a very good news for cross-border and of course for my company, even if this passes, you need to wait what happens next. So nothing that happens arrives. In Spanish, we say nothing is escrito en piedra. So nothing stays forever. And sometimes in Latin America, it stays for a little bit. So we need to see how the Chinese start to sell millions and millions of packages, and what's the reaction of the local retailers, which are very powerful in Brazil. And, I think that's a little bit the movie 3 years ago.
Yes, and with an election coming up, everything can change again. Who knows? We'll see how it goes. Great. I would like to extend the invitation to the audience if anybody has a question for this panel.
This is Mikey. Thank you.
Well, thank you for a wonderful panel.
I'm Brian with Linguascale. We're a tech company focused on discovery diagnostics and market intelligence. And, we've been analyzing product listings across the major LATAM markets. And what we found very interesting is large portions of cross-border marketplace inventory is remaining structurally invisible, structurally undiscoverable in local search environments. And we dug into it, and what we're finding is a variance between how products are translated and the seller's words and local search behavior, how buyers are actually searching. And there's a big disconnect. And as a result, many sellers don't even know they have this problem. But the products are remaining undiscovered. And this is all being done with AI and proprietary models. But just wondering if you're hearing that from your buyers, your sellers.
Okay. So, yeah, I think you're on point. And basically, I think this is probably, at least for Mercado Libre, a little bit of the challenge with especially Chinese sellers who are building their business with a lot of long-tail catalogs that they just pour into each marketplace, right? With poor translations and catalogs. And what we are doing from the marketplace is pushing them to improve their listings. And unless they have traffic and better photos and videos and clips and better translations, we're going to shut down all of those listings, because if you allow them, it could be 30-40% of our listing base. And that's probably not the best experience for buyers that are coming for a specific item, and they just get bombarded with low quality listings. So I think the challenge is real. We are working very, and we even talked about this with Ilan this morning. We're very committed to kind of, taking the best of the best out of the massive listings, showcasing that very well, and kind of excluding the rest, so that the experience for the buyer is much better.
Antonio, want to say something here? Or?
No, that's it.
No, I can just extend a little bit. I think the catalog thing is, at least, is one of the most important tech challenges we are seeing. We are seeing it as a great opportunity. So we are working a lot with artificial intelligence here. There is a huge opportunity of using agentic commerce and agencies for matching text and understanding how to optimize, what's the most searched product. So the rest maybe disappear it. And I think it was John that from Pattern that was mentioning there are many data companies that are giving you a lot of data. There is another way to do it besides the data companies, which is on the experience. So using companies like ours, you can very easily, using drop shipping, test certain SKUs and get a lot of data that's very rich for your decision making. Then to go and export those products, it's truly like very cheap for doing it. It's compared to, doing market research and importing products, then put inventory and see what to sell. Like, I don't think there is another way that's as efficient and as cheap as drop shipping for testing. The opportunity of certain SKUs.
Hi, my name is John. I have a quick question regarding the bureaucracy of credit card companies in the US is horrible, and the chargeback situation is getting worse month by month and year over year. How it is handled in LATAM, and also the customer service aspect of it.
You repeat the first part because
the credit card situation is worsening here in this country. How you guys handle the chargeback situation and also the customer service part of it in LATAM, in marketplace?
So I'm not an expert on fintech, but basically we have a very strong fintech arm and the best fraud prevention team, I would say, in all of LATAM. And that keeps all of the chargebacks. I can't remember the actual number, but I know it was way lower than the average even here in the US. And that is because of the models that we provide, right? also probably because the way we give credits, which is still a small portion of the business that we have in fintech. So in fintech we have everything from digital wallets all the way to our own credit card and credits. And for instance, in Mexico, 20% of what is sold on the platform is actually being purchased by our own credits, and that chargeback fee amount is really, really low. So I don't think it hasn't been like a big issue for us.
I mean, we also know that just getting credit in Latin America is harder, and so you tend to get a different demographics. Maybe that changes things too. I don't know. I think we have time for one or two more questions. Yeah, I'll shuttle it over to you.
Hi, everybody. My name's Andy. I have a question. You mentioned Amazon a few times, and that's obviously the elephant in the room. It is shopping online has become ubiquitous. And I think what happened in the United States 20, 25 years ago is eBay was the leader, and it was a marketplace. And it was quickly taken over by Amazon specifically because they have a catalog. What is Mercado Libre and Knock Knock doing to make sure that doesn't happen in Latin America?
It's interesting that you mentioned that because eBay was a big investor at the beginning for Mercado Libre. They actually own 20% of Mercado Libre shares. And then, after a very good investment for them, we decided to part ways and not to do the M&A, which was their wish. And we've been doing a lot of things. So starting out, Mercado Libre was a pure auction site, very similar to eBay. And then I think at some point we realized, and this before I even joined the company 13 years ago, that was not the way to go, that we should shift towards a catalog, a buy box, and real purchases and not auctions. And that's when we decided to pour all of our energy into that more curated catalog and basically, structure the website in a way that you could find the products and not have an immense overflow of products that had no rhyme or reason or real structure. And then after that, I think what we have done very, very well is to verticalize each experience, get the best supply in each one of those categories, launch 1P, which is something we did. I actually did 7 years ago, and then change seats to cross-border, launch groceries and supermarket, launch cross-border. So basically, we are getting into very specialized product categories and also different supply sources in order to make sure that we had everything within our platform to basically serve those buyers.
On our side, so there is a podcast called Escaladores. Karen has a great chapter. I recommend you. There is another one from Pedro Arndt. Pedro Arndt used to be CFO of Meli. He's in our board now, and he is the CEO of the local. And he's exactly tackling your question. So he answers why the eBay. I think he talked about like the arrogance and whatever, and there was like an analogy of a place in Italy that they went for a summit and the amount of money eBay paid for that. So talking about that, I think part of what Karen is trying to say and what I will say now is you need to be in a mindset level paranoid, because only the paranoid survive, and that's true. And we have that in the DNA. I think that being in Latin America helps because, as I mentioned before, the chaos and the emerging market style of things changing all the time makes you paranoid. Like if you don't, you will never survive. So our job is having certainty that nothing will continue to be certain, and we need to adopt and innovate. So what's the next? So should we enter the fulfillment directly? Should we expand into new markets? What's going to happen with the marketplace fragmentation? What's going to happen with AI? So is ChatGPT the next Mercado Libre? Well, I don't think so, but we need to ask ourselves those questions for sure and have nothing on granted. I think it's a matter of mindset.
I think we'll have to end it there, but hopefully you'll all be sticking around for the next hour or so.
It's a cocktail now, I
Yes,
think.
exactly. So so everyone will be sticking around, obviously. But so feel free to come up after and pepper them with questions. But thank you, Anthony, Karen, Elon, for this time, and Viva America Latina.
Thank you, Creighton, for making it.